Yo, 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 people and patrons of the night, it is your boy, the Horrorlander, and today we got the second to last Goosebumps House of Shivers review that I'm going to be giving you guys. Now, obviously, I did not honor my word of back-to-back reviews because I'm a fraud, and I'm a mood reader, I'm a mood reviewer. I can't really stick to one thing. Apologies for the glare, by the way. There's a holy beam of light coming down on me, but you know what, it is what it is. And I decided, you know what, might as well give you guys another one. I do want to wrap it up soon because I've read all the books. I just need to pump out reviews. And today I'm actually going to be doing the very first book that came out in the series, Scariest Book Ever. So first I'm going to go into a little bit about the plot, which I'm going to go a little bit less than I usually do because this book is relying on twists. There's a lot of twists and some fake out scenes later in the book. So I can't give too much away, otherwise you guys are going to get spoiled. No point in reading it. So I'm going to cut back on that, but I will talk about my positives as to what things I like about the book and my negatives. And this is sort of a messy book because there's quite a bit of stuff that I enjoyed and I actually really liked, but there was a lot of messy things involving the plot that took me away from being able to give it really the score I would have wished for, because this could have been easily one of my favorite books in all of House of Shivers, if not the favorite book in House of Shivers. It had potential for that. But spoiler alert, it did not get there. So let's get into a little bit of the plot, and then I'll go into my positives and then my negatives. First things first, we got to address the title and the cover. I absolutely love the cover. You see it on the screen. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I really, really like it. Not one of my top ones, but it's like my third favorite. I really like that cover. And as for the title sucks, man. That title is not good. Scariest book ever. Very cliche, very corny. Just the fact that it's got periods in between it too. And there's a bigger reason why that title genuinely is just no. But I'll get into that when I go into my positives and negatives. So the plot involves a brother and a sister who are getting driven over to their uncle. I believe his name is Wendell's house. He lives in this foreboding kind of cabin in the woods, house in the woods, in a place called Wayward Forest. And because their mom and dad are going on a trip to London for business, they have to get left there. But they've heard stories and they have a really bad gut feeling that, you know, Uncle Wendell is sort of an eccentric guy. He's kind of a creepy guy. He's a strange uncle. And they don't want to go hang out with them. They're like, we'd rather go with you guys to London, but that can't happen. So what ends up happening is that, of course, they end up getting dropped off no matter how much they try to convince their parents not to. And when their parents end up being late because they got lost in the woods getting to the house and they leave, at first, the two kids are scared that this might not be the right house. They might have went to somebody else's house and they're lost here. Because when they're knocking, nobody's answering. And then they realize that the door is unlocked. They open it, and then they confront their Uncle Wendell. But things don't ease into speaking with him because he right away starts going into some crazy yap, which may or may not be true. And that involves the fact that he owns something known as the scariest book ever, an object which is rare, expensive, highly sought after, and if it's opened, if this book is opened, bad things will happen. So he's trying to protect it, but unfortunately, they find out that somebody ended up robbing the book. So now he's essentially forcing the kids to go and help him, go try to find the robber and the book, because it's a priceless artifact that is really bad if it's in the bad hands. So it's been protected by him and his family. And they have to go into Wayward Forest, which is the forest surrounding this house. But this forest is strange because since it's not been visited by any human life in the past 100 years, things have gone ballistic. Animals have started mutating. You got a bunch of hybrid chimera creatures in there, all types of crazy ass stuff. And the kids will be in danger. They might not make it back to the house alive, but it feels like they have no choice. This has to be done for the saving humanity aspect and the fact that Wendell's not going to let them just sit by idle. So they eventually go head out to Wayward Forest, try to hunt down the robber and the scariest book ever, and then chaos starts to ensue, not just at the forest, but also at the house. And you get a bunch of twists and some fake outs and some things revealed later on. So that's the plot. I'm not going to give more than that because it's very easy to spoil. But now I'll get into my positives and then my negatives. Now, the biggest positive that I have about this book is the fact that it is a fun and wild creature feature Splatoozа. And the best way for me to put that into perspective, that term, is with my GOAT of adult horror, Tim Curran, because he's a creature feature Splatoozа expert. He's a master of creature feature and making horrific, fantastic high threat level monsters. And he has 3 books which are creature feature Splatoozas, which I've read: Dead Sea, Dead Sea Chronicles, which are 2 novellas bundled together, and Monstrosity. Now, these are all great examples of it, but Monstrosity is the one I want to highlight because its plotline is actually a little bit similar to Scariest Book Ever, funny enough, because it involves this situation in the Midwest of America where these giant crevices and cracks in the earth have opened up and these large copious amounts of white fungus have started pouring out, unknown fungus called the food, because living creatures of all types in the Midwest are drawn to eat it. And if humans eat it, they get infected like The Last of Us, bad stuff. But when creatures eat it and this stuff starts seeping into zoos and barns and houses, those animals start supersizing and turning into horrific, monstrous chimeras, hence the name Monstrosity. And you have this father and his son and daughter who are running through the countryside, running through the forest, trying to get to safety of a military base. Meanwhile, they have to keep dodging and weaving and holding out against all these different chimera hybrid monstrosities. Now, here in Scariest Book Ever, you have the male guardian figure, Uncle Wendell. You have the boy and girl. And although the Monstrosity book has a forest and countryside location, here you have the forest aspect. So I liked it, man. It was a creature feature Splatoozа. It felt like some Tim Curran-esque stuff, even though he clearly did not inspire this book. It just has a similar vibe. But it felt like a PG-friendly version of what he does. And it was fun, man. There was some genuinely disturbing scenes in this book, such as when they go encounter the cannibal crows, which they're out in the woods and they see these not supersized, but giant bird eggs that start hatching, and these disgusting, slimy, fucked up looking crow, vulture, buzzard things come out of there, these baby ones, and immediately when they burst out of the embryo and the eggs, they start eating one another. They just start viciously ripping the skin and feathers off of each other and just voraciously eating each other down to the bone, almost like a feeding frenzy of a shark or piranha. And the kids have to sit there and watch it. That is fucking wild. You also have stuff like the kind of cryptid thing called a tree bear, which is like a monkey bear hybrid that sits in the tree, and when it gets disturbed, it almost attacks one of the kids. You have 3-headed giant snakes. You have huge worms, which end up getting in their mouths and their clothes and stuff later in the story. And there's a scene at night where or not night, but it's approaching kind of nighttime, where they're using their flashlights sparingly, trying to get back through the woods, and this fucking horde of humanoid bats. So these bats with humanoid skeletal kind of faces start getting in the girl's hair and start trying to get to them, and they're dodging. And because they turn on the flashlight, these robin-sized moths start coming and basically biting on them and swarming them and covering their bodies, and they sink into this quicksand mud-like thing and start to drown and sink down there. And while the main character, the boy, is screaming, a robin-sized moth flies into his mouth and he starts choking on it and suffocating. That is fucking vile. That is disgusting. But I loved it. That was some creepy, disgusting, gross out stuff. And I'm just like, throughout this whole book, these kids are getting put through the absolute ringer. It is insane how much these kids have to go through. And that also had a Curran vibe, because in Curran books, humans are just fucking puppets. It's like he's like the Art the Clown of horror. He just finds all different types of way to just fuck up humans and adults, and just, you would not want to be a character in one of his books. And here I would not want to be the kids. Even though they don't die, they are just getting hammered and hammered and hammered by the ecosystem of the forest. And it's like, damn, bro. And even the human threats, they don't catch a break. So I felt really bad for the brother and sister, but it makes for good horror content. There's also a scene in the climax of the book, which is the best creature feature action you get. I'm not going to say what it is, but it was great, man. When I saw that scene, I was genuinely unnerved and I was scared for the kids. And even if I was imagining myself in that situation, I was like, bro, the intensity, the creepiness, the horror behind what the creature was that they meet in the climax in a cave. And bro, I was like, they're going to get eaten or killed. It's what it felt like until some, thing happens, which wasn't a plot convenience. It kind of made sense. But I was like, bro, I really felt scared for them in that moment. It was horrific. And, again, it felt like there was a current story called Heat Seeker, which involves some space voyagers. It's a sci-fi story, and they're in subterranean tunnels, and they encounter something big bad. And it had a similar kind of vibe for particular characteristics and reasons to the climax in this book. So I was like, bro, Stein is cooking. Stein is coming up with some pretty intense, pretty harrowing, pretty good creature feature action. Again, a Splatusa. And it doesn't have to be named creatures. It doesn't have to be like a Slappy or, a sentience to it. No, these are just wild monsters. These are monstrosities. These are weird creatures that could kill you at any moment, that could eat you at any moment. And there really is no safety behind it. Although one of the creatures was like apparently an eagle-sized mosquito, and it has hands down the worst name for a villain or monster I've ever heard, especially in kids horror and Goosebumps. It's called a blood skeet. You might want to go to a doctor and get that checked out. So that was the real positive for the novel. There's also good character banter. I like all the characters in the book. They're pretty enjoyable. They got nice banter between each other, especially the brother and sister having some funny lines, some good dialogue. They're particularly funny and pretty entertaining when they're interacting with their parents in the beginning of the book. Uncle Wendell's pretty interesting. Some of the more characters and human villains you see later are also kind of interesting enough. But that's really all it is with the positives. And now let me get into the negatives, because this book does have its negatives and it does get messy, which is why my score detracted. So the real big negatives about this book, first of all, the elephant in the room. The book is called The Scariest Book Ever, and there is actually a Scariest Book Ever object in the story. And you don't know what the fuck it does. It is never explained what this book does, why it's so evil, what happens when you open up the pages. You don't even know what's the reason behind why people want it. They just say it's rare and expensive. But the absolute sheer lengths that robbers and villains go to get it is ridiculous. You don't know who made it. There wasn't even a hint as to who made it. You don't know when it's made. You don't know why it's made. Why are people coming after it? And it felt like Stein didn't know what he wanted to do with The Scariest Book Ever. So it's like, if you name a book after that, and not only do you name the book after that, it's not even clickbait. This thing is constantly mentioned and integral to the plot. And you have absolutely no fucking explanation as to what it does, why it's made, when it's made, who made it, whoever. Like, the other stuff I can excuse. But when you don't even know what it does, that annoys me. Because, like, the Haunted Mask, we got a little bit of its backstory, how it got made, who made it, what it does. The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, we kind of know the backstory, who made it, and what it does, and it's consistent. You have, the Say Cheese and Die camera. You have, you have who made it, why it's made, what it does. Stuff like that. So it annoys me that we get absolutely nothing for this book, that the whole book is named after. And it's just like, why is it such an integral part of the plot? It is literally a giant, plot convenience. It's literally just I don't know. It's just pointless. Honest to God, it's pointless. There could have been some cool stuff done with it, but we'll never know. So that's the elephant in the room. There's also the explanation for Wayward Forest, which is dumb as bricks. I don't want to be that guy, but there's common sense. And the explanation for why Wayward Forest has all these mutated creatures and insane wildlife makes no sense. He said that because the forest has not been visited for a century, 100 years, you have all these supersized mutant hybrid chimera creatures that have just started, filling up the woods. That's not how that fucking works, bro. The most unexplored parts of the world where there's all type of freaky creatures, it's like unexplored jungles, unexplored habitats, and the bottom of the ocean. Well, a majority of the ocean, because we don't know what's in a majority of the ocean, especially the deep sea. That's stuff that's not been explored for millions, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions upon millions of years. That's why all type of crazy shit you find in there and other stuff. Bro, if you've not visited a forest for 100 years, yeah, you might get some bigger than normal creatures or maybe one or two things. You're not going to get mutant, hybrid, supersized monstrosities. That just does not make sense. Like, I was like, Stein, come on, bro. And I talked about monstrosity, bro. Monstrosity literally had the aspect that there's this giant mutant white fungus coming out of the earth that creatures are drawn to eat, and it kind of alluded to, the coming of the apocalypse, like, the 40-day flood or whatever. So at least you got something there that's the reason why things are going crazy. And you could have done some other stuff for why Wayward Forest is so crazy. You could have said, like, some dark magic was done there. Maybe it's built on like a Native American, ground, and it's cursed. You could have had something like monstrosity where there's some element or mineral or thing in the woods that's making it do it. Or the one that would have made the most sense, that almost like common, this is like a duh, like light bulb moment, is that you could have had the aspect of the scariest book ever being that when it's opened, it corrupts all the wildlife on the outside. You've seen stuff like that with cursed objects all the time. You've seen stuff like that with even alien objects, you know, polluting and corrupting other living life around them. You could have done that with the book, that when it was first opened, or opened on an occasion, it flooded its, you know, dark energy or dark magic aura across, you know, Wayward Forest, and made it, you know, like this freak Narnia, you know, wild creature, you know, where the wild things are kind of thing. That could have been the reason. That would have made sense, that yes, if you don't keep this book closed and you keep opening it, it's going to affect all the living life around you, especially human life, you know? So human life could be infected in a bad way. All the animals could be infected in a bad way. It's just bad things all around. That would have been the easiest explanation. I feel like that would have been like common sense shit. So why is there no explanation given as to what the book does, what it's made for, what, and why is there such a dog shit explanation given for Wayward Forest? I was like, hell no, bruh. That shit could have easily been fixed, but Stein said no. And finally, the human villains are not interesting, bro. They're all like gimmick caricatures. Some of them are named like the Collector and the Bookworm because they like collecting stuff and like collecting books. And for some reason, they go to extreme Looney Tunes levels of violence and lengths, trying to kill people to get this book that's rare and expensive. You know, obviously, you know, it's the scariest book ever. Bad things happen, but it's like, bro, they felt like GYG villains. Like, you know, GYG villains got like a single random caricature, you know, gimmick word for their name. But it's fine because it's a GYG. They're not going to have much screen time, and the book is all over the place. It's a game book, so all types of crazy shit happens. But here in a mainline book, you got some caricature, gimmick-ass characters like that are just over the top. And there's so many fake outs. There's so many fake outs later in the book that it got to a point where I'm like, bro, if one more fake out happens, I'm going to stop giving a fuck. And that's what happened. I stopped giving a fuck. I was like, bro, come on, bro. Like, bitch, you don't need to do all that, bitch. Like, we saw the first fake out, bitch. Like, just stop it, bitch. You know, clock that D. I was like, no, bro, no. Too many fake outs, and it's just messy overall. So that stuff really detracted points off of the book. So what's the final score the book gets? I'm going to give it a 7.3 out of 10, which means that it's a higher decent book. I love to give it a pretty good. I love to give it a good. Again, creature features Splatuza, Tim Curran, PG version vibes, you know, great threat level, you know, good banter, good characters. Wayward Forest is my second favorite setting in Goosebumps outside of Horrorland. Horrorland's first. This one's my second favorite. I would love to see more of this world. But that messiness, man, that lack of care put into the rest of the book, and just annoying parts, it detracted it for me. But it's still a higher decent book. I still think you should definitely read it. You'll find stuff you like in it. I know a lot of people love the book. You might end up loving it even if I didn't. But that's my score. So far I got Night of the Living Mummy as number 1. I got Last Sleepover as second. I got this one right below it. And then I got Say My Name, dead fucking bottom. You shall go all watch that video that I ranted about it. And Goblin Monday, where is that going to stand? You'll figure out in the next review, and the last review of House of Shivers. But if you like this video, good way to support me. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down below your thoughts about Scariest Book Ever. Have you read it? Have you not read it? Maybe go read it. Let me know your thoughts. If you've already read it, drop your thoughts down below. And that's really all I got for today. Hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'm about to peace out. See you till the next time, which will be my Q&A announcement and my official Q&A that drops, I think, on Sunday. So yeah, deuces.
Arrivederci.